going to be getting a really in-depth breakdown of how he thinks about prompting and just different AI workflows. We're going to get a really good look behind the scenes. This is not high-level tactics. This is real strategy, and he's got great resources to share with you. So super excited. Again, if you're just joining us, I want to say two things. Let us know in the chat where you're calling in from. Also, use the Q&A at the bottom for any questions. We'll make sure to get to those. And just one more thing. We were supposed to have a second guest. They weren't able to make it, so it's just me and Koen today. We still have a lot to go over. But with that said, there's a chance that we may go a little bit shorter than the previously scheduled 45 minutes. It's possible we'll still use the full time, but just giving everyone a heads up in case we go 30 minutes. We're still going to give you all the tactics and everything we were planning to cover. Just a chance we might go a little bit shorter. Okay, so today we're talking about the top AI strategies and tools to nail your prospecting process. My name is Jed Marley. I'm the founder at Practical Prospecting and a frequent host here at Sell Better. Again, gave a quick intro to Koen earlier, but he is over at Personio, and he has tons of great experience, tons of great content on AI, prospecting, all that sort of stuff. So I highly recommend go check out his LinkedIn. Really good content that's going to build on top of what we're talking about today. If you guys didn't know, this is a daily sales show, so we are running shows every single weekday. Go to our website. We've got tons of free content. You can see all the previously recorded shows. Also check out our YouTube channel. All the content is free for the most part, so go check it out. Great courses, etc. I want to say thank you to our partner ZoomInfo for making these shows possible. Again, thank you, ZoomInfo. These shows would not happen without our partners. We're going to drop a great resource that's completely free in the chat from ZoomInfo. They are giving you everything you need to leverage sales signals to do warmer outbound and book more meetings. It's a very tactical guide. It talks a lot about how to use AI as well. So if this topic is interesting and you are more of a reader, check that out because there's a lot of good tactical content in there. Okay, so just a couple more things and then we're going to get right into it. We're going to be talking about using AI prompts and different strategies for building targeted lists and messaging. And we're really going to get just a live breakdown and workflow of Koen's process. And before we get into that, Koen, I wanted to just ask you, just really quick, talk to us about how you started using AI. Like, what was that transition period like? When did you start using it? When do you feel like it started to make a noticeable impact? And just talk to us about how you're actually using it right now in your day to day. So just folks have some context before we get into the tactical stuff.
Yeah, sure. So I think there is like overall not like not enough content and tactics on AI or on go-to-market or on outbound and prospecting. And I mean, just look at all ourselves. We are scrolling through over LinkedIn, give likes, etc. To all the posts, or maybe we are saving those posts, but we are never looking back towards those posts, right? I think we are all there. Yeah, maybe we have some, but let's be honest. Are we really using all the data which we actually consume? We are spending time on consuming information, the last tactics. I mean, Jed, I said it to you in the pre-call, like I think eventually with the database I will show you later on. I mean, you're also in the database. Like tactics I see in this show, I think, hey, this is something I can capture for myself, become better. And I'm a leader, second line revenue leader at a company called Personio. We are like pre-IPO out of Europe, hundreds of millions of ARR. But I also need to inspire my managers and eventually also my teams to leverage tactics and not only AI. There it came. Like 3 years ago, I was like, hey, I need to find a system, a structure, a database where I can collect all the information which is shared freely online on LinkedIn and podcasts, you name it. And I was just starting collecting this in a Notion database. So I'm a big fan of Notion. Back in the days, Notion AI didn't exist. ChatGPT AI didn't exist. So I was just storing all this information. But of course, you want to dissect this information. You want to make it specific towards outbound prospecting for me as a leader or for me as an AE or an SDR. It's all different nuances. So I started doing this all manually. And then it was 2.5 years ago. And like, hey, there's something that's called like AI out there. And obviously OpenAI was the first thing with ChatGPT. And then it started to click because I also saw that Notion AI came up to the market and I was like the first one just to purchase this. And like I could structure this database and let AI run over the content and dissect it into pieces like what kind of persona, what kind of topics, where in the funnel, what kind of meta text. So all of a sudden it started to kind of structure my entire database. I think that was really, and that's truly, I think 2.5 years, like ever since it came to the market, I would say January 2 years ago or so.
Something like
I
that,
started working with it. However, and then I paused for a sec, like I just started using this Notion AI library, which was great, but still it became a very large database. And if you and me or anyone want to use it, we need to make it consumable, instant. We need to have like, I mean, come on, like we are, if I look to myself, super lazy. I just want the voice prompt. I don't want to look into database filters to get towards this piece of information. I want it in my context now. And I
Yeah.
think nowadays, last couple of, what is it, like year, 1.5 year, this is possible with GPTs, with the advanced stuff of AI. So it started very simple, but I think I'm trying to leverage more and more. And obviously, again, me using it, but I try to share it as much as possible to encourage everyone to also start using it. So yeah, that's kind of like how I started with AI, but I'm still like only have like 10% of what is possible. But yeah,
Yeah. I love that. I have two questions before we get into the workflows. First off, I think like put a one in the chat if you can relate to this, what Kuhn just mentioned, where it's like you're consuming a lot of content, podcasts, LinkedIn posts that you save for later, and you find yourself, not going back to maybe 90% of the content. I do that all the time. There'll be like interesting videos I see people post. So I save to it, and maybe once every other month I'll dig through and I'll kind of pull back out a couple things. But you're totally right. There's like an overload of content out there, and if we can find a way to distill it to
that's
what's
not a
most
problem.
relevant
Yeah.
for us. Exactly. So I love that. My question is, and I know we're going to get into it, but we've actually, to my knowledge, not talked about Notion's AI or Notion AI on this
Mhm.
show. Can you just give for the audience a quick recap? And I think we're going to see an example of that too. What is Notion AI, and like how is it different from, let's say, ChatGPT?
I
Why do you like
mean,
it?
I think we as consumers, and yes, we all work at companies or we own our own company, but like we as consumers, we use ChatGPT. But in a working environment, and that's also one of the things which we use in my teams. I love using Notion also for my managers, like all our weeklies and all our conversations and structures and templates. We use Notion as the go-to source. Like, we have recently made some changes that we are not using Notion at the company anymore, but I'm a Notion freak. I want to use Notion or any of these productivity collaboration tools. And I think there as well, you start clutter all your documents, all your process, all your how-tos, like you name it. You document your processes, playbooks there. With now AI of Notion AI, just like ChatGPT or Gemini, whatever, but you can really search through that database. So if I want to look for a playbook, typically I will go to the playbook library and I just look in the search bar for that one. Now I can just go to also there, just like ChatGPT, I get to Notion AI. So like, hey, listen, I want to find this in my database, and poof, it collects and it shows and summarizes, and it can help
Love
me.
it.
Or, and as well, Notion AI. I've written a playbook. I want to write it shorter, concise, different persona, and I give them prompts as well, and it helps me, yeah, refining actually the document.
That's super cool. Yeah. Kun, we could get into actually sharing the workflows. While you're doing that, I do want to throw up a poll because I'm curious to see who is in the room. Let us know, are you an SDR, an AE, a sales leader? I think for the managers and leadership on this call, Notion AI is really interesting to what he was talking about, and you're going to like what we're going to share next because I think this is a great way to just keep all the resources in one place and really effectively host all the tactics in one place for your team. Because that's another big thing too, is like as your team grows, there's so many different ideas that are floating around, and keeping it all in one place where it's accessible to everybody is hard to manage. But it sounds like this is something that's a lot easier with your AI process. So yeah, we can get right into the workflows. Folks are filling out this form here, and excited to kind of dig in.
Cool, cool, cool. Let me only very quickly add this one, and then I'm ready to share. Wait.
Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and share these poll results as well while you're pulling that up. Really cool. So about half of you are account executives, which is awesome to see. I feel like every show I do, we see more and more AEs and fewer SDRs, which I'm assuming that means y'all are getting promoted. So shout out to you guys if that's the case. But shout out to the SDRs on this call and nearly 30% of you who are in leadership positions. Always appreciate having leadership on the calls with us. Thanks for joining us, guys. All right. Cool. I'm excited to get in. Look at all the tabs here. We got a lot of stuff going on.
I mean, this is like my daily work, like all those steps, and typically half of them are ChatGPT and anything like when it comes to AI, because I think I spend half my day. Definitely during my workday, as like again, like I'm a second line leader, cross-functional revenue, so both new business and existing business. So actually, it's very interesting. So I have a lot of
Nice.
managers and reps and different CSMs, SDRs, AEs, account managers, solution engineers, partnerships where we work with, and we do AI a lot. What you see here, and I will try to guide you. If it's going too fast or there's any question, please drop it in. I think should be a dialogue there. This is eventually the outcome. So this is a prompt series, which I actually made last night based on the topic which we're discussing today. Spoiler alert, we've built, together with Jet, on Jet's permission, I just built a playbook with AI. I made templates. This will all be shared afterwards. It's recorded, but you will get this, all different kind of tactics from the latest. So getting back towards eventually the entire series of prompts, let me take you indeed on my ride of 3 years. So don't be scared, but what you see over here is like a Notion database. For those who don't know Notion, or you have Airtable, you have many of those tools where you can just build a database. And a database is nothing else than an overview of all different kind of sub pages, in this case Notion. So this is a sub page in Notion. What I've done overall, and that's what I started doing 3 years ago, is like, and I can give you an example, right? So if I go to LinkedIn, please bear with me if my message is open. Oh, no, I did it the right thing. And I actually like this conversation, like this specific, I actually follow Kyle quite a bit. And I think this specific tactic is something I really admire. Rather than I give it like a or a comment, sure, I will when I really want to interact. But what I am doing, and I'm nerdy here, but I'm do it over here, sorry. I, since 3 years, want to collect both on desktop or mobile. On mobile, it's even easier. I have a small of Notion plugin where I just actually only enter the name of Cal. I always take the first sentence because that's a reference. And what it actually will do, and you will see it in a bit, there it comes, right? So it actually takes the entire post, also when there are PDFs or other stuff, with the API call, put it directly into my database, because that's what I did over here. I just connected it, as you can see here, towards a database, and I have plenty of databases also for HR because I'm in the HR space, but this is purely on go-to-market. The good thing and the interesting thing here is I structured the database to dissect this specific post in all different kind of elements. Call it metadata, whatever you want. For me, it's very important, okay, who's the content creator? What is the topic where we're talking about? What are the key challenges discussed? What is the key solution? What's the key learning? You can go on forever. I want to make it practical for myself so I or my teams can leverage it later on. So what you will see if we talk further, I don't have to do here anything because you see here AI. So either every cell has a small prompt into it. So I can just give you, and I won't go too much into detail, but just to give you a view, it has a prompt in that specific cell. What it actually does is it will automatically, during my day, analyze all those posts into chunks, into pieces. And from a bit of unstructured data, I make it structured data. And like I said, I already done it. Now you see a filter of 7,400 posts. This is all done manually. Why? I don't like scraping, because scraping means it has a shitload of not really useful content. I want to make sure that my databases on AI consist of information I think is valuable for me or for my teams or for my peers. But like, this is what I built on LinkedIn posts. And like you said, Chad, as well, sometimes, and I love to listen to podcasts. I do it a lot during my walks, during my runs. But I also started, in this case, do the same thing with podcasts. So you can go to YouTube. You have all kind of small plugins, which actually makes a transcript of that call. Again, they're all freely shared resources. So what I do, for instance, you see here an example. Also there, it's fully structured with AI cells and AI prompts. So for me, it's very important, and I scroll down and you can see actually the entire transcript, that in this case also it's structured. Who are the content creators? What is the media show? For which persona? Because eventually, again, this database is fully free to use, so I also will share that one. Everyone can use it. It's just a GPT. And you can, as an SDR, say like, hey, I'm an SDR and I'm looking for outbound tactics through LinkedIn or cold calling. The more specific you are in prompting, the better you get examples. And I want to make sure that you get examples from proven tactics freely shared on open source like LinkedIn and podcast. So here it actually dissects all the really relevant pieces for myself. And at the end, I always make sure it creates checklists and role plays. So I actually feed my overall LLM, because this is my own LLM which I'm trying to build. And again, it's open, everyone can use it. Not the core source, but at least you can talk towards the GPT. You can become better yourself. Because let's be honest, Jet, you already said like many AEs or tonight in the chat, like listening to us. How often does your manager really have time at the moment you need it? I truly
Yeah.
believe that the manager of tomorrow can be a human, but it can also be AI, who is there instantly for yourself as an SDR, as an AE, but also as you as a first line leader, even as a founder. That you can actually, at the moment you really need coaching, you need tips, you need tricks, you need like, hey, I want to review my email cadence or the specific email I'm now sending out to the CFO. Yeah, of course you can ask your peer or your manager, but let's be honest, when are they available? So therefore, I think
Right.
AI can be your counterpart, your sounding board, right? So this is what I built, which eventually led me, okay, this is still a lot of information. And then I started building indeed playbooks. And this is like something I started like earlier this year. I now build all different kind of playbooks purely for myself, like dissect all this information. I'm a second line leader. I'm cross-functional or responsible. So I want all different kind of topics, which maybe are slightly different than you as an AE or an SDR or first line manager. But I want to build these databases.
Love
I
it.
pause here for a sec, Jet, because before I move on, but like this is my core library of I mean LLM, OpenAI, it's beautiful, but it's enormous, and
Yeah.
I like specific data sets. And this to me, we all know, we all consume a lot on podcast and on LinkedIn. This is really like curated content of the latest, proven by the likes of yourself. So these tactics I rather implement than the generic stuff which I find in an open LLM.
Love it. So this is great, man. I have a lot of questions I want to get into, and there's a question from the chat before we move on. First off, any questions you guys have on the stuff that we're covering, feel free to drop them in the chat or the Q&A. If you put it in the Q&A, we'll make sure to try to get to all of those by the end of the show. But a couple questions here. So first off, I completely agree that it's a great idea. Everybody should have their own sort of internal library of content that they consume in their own like swipe file, if you will. And you've really taken this to the next level. Somebody asked, how is this information being entered into Notion? I know you're using that extension. Are you doing the same thing with podcasts as well? And is that what is the extension? Is it just Notion's regular Chrome extension, or is there a different one that folks
Yeah.
should check out?
So, so first of all, which I showed you here is just a Notion plugin. That's on my desktop, and again, I'm a nerd, so I do this during any moment of the day because I want to
Yeah.
enrich this database manually. The same thing if you go towards and I will show you now, everyone, like if you, I can't show it, but of course, if you go to your mobile and you go towards any kind of post, you see the three dots next to each other. If you click there,
Yeah.
you know that you can share it in Slack. I made sure that also on my mobile, because typically we are all on mobile, I'm only swiping with 3 clicks and I add it the same way towards my Notion database. So yes, this is manual. Can you do it automatically? Yes. Should I advise doing it? No, because the moment LinkedIn or Notion or anyone is really noticing that you are scraping, like of course at mass, then they think you're a robot and you are jeopardizing potentially your own LinkedIn account. So I would never advise
Yeah.
doing this because I know a lot of people doing it. I personally do it manually myself in this way. I don't say that everyone has to do it, but like at least this is my way of capturing the latest tactics so I can use that and share them within my teams.
Love it. And then did you say you're going to share those libraries with folks, or do you recommend everybody just create their own specific
No,
tool
I
that they
mean,
care about?
let's be. I mean, again, like this has already worked for 3 years. This is all those libraries except for these ones. So actually, I'm also sharing this one on one. But like, I share this to everyone, and I share the
Love it.
GPT behind it because otherwise, with only the database, you don't have much. I will come in a bit
Yeah.
into the GPT, which we've built as well.
Love it.
Latest, if you go towards, I mean, Jet, let me look you up for a bit. I don't think I tapped on
Sure.
your name, right? But like, there you have, lovely. But it's short. Like, I want to have. There you go. This is Glasp, GLASP, which is a small extension in YouTube. I only click here and I see the entire podcast transcript, right? I just copy and I paste it into Notion. Sure, this can also be done automatically, but I want to curate like only my podcast, which I truly believe in and where I really listen to. So these are both from LinkedIn and in this case, YouTube or podcast, the ways in which we put it actually towards the library.
Couple more questions here, and then we can keep moving. Keith asks, are you manually entering the tags on the other columns, or are you using AI to do that?
Everything is like so everywhere you see AI, 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 AI,
I
AI,
see.
AI, everything is AI
Okay. And then do
because I don't have
you,
time.
yeah, I agree. I mean, I think going through and just manually tagging every single one of these would take a long time. So that's great. This is an awesome, again, I haven't actually seen the Ocean AI, so this is great. And again, everyone's going to get access to this playbook towards the end of today's show. But Kuhn, anything else to share on this? There's some more questions. We'll get back to those towards the end of the show. But anything else you think worth noting on these kind of libraries before we get into the Chat GPT?
I mean, everyone needs to decide for themselves, but I think, and we'll come towards this a bit because I've also shared my prompt series. Like when I want to dissect information from this very rich database, still, if I'm very generic, I will get my output very generic. This database is there for 3 years. If I ask like, hey, can you show me outbound prospecting? It can also give me like a post which maybe Jet you wrote 3 years ago, which is a tactic which is already fully out of play. So you need to make sure also there like that, and therefore, for instance, I always do creation dates. When I save post, it also dissects the year, so I can always eventually, in a structured way, search in my prompts for the latest. And latest is like a term on itself. No, I want to have them in 2025, relevant in the world of 2025. So I think there as well, both on the LLM side and eventually on the prompting, and we'll come towards this a bit, be specific. Even ask AI, whatever you're using, hey, this is my prompt. Can you help me improving this prompt so it's more specific to what I'm looking for? So I think the devil is really in the details there, both on building
Yeah.
a database or if you have any generic databases, really be specific in your prompts and go over and review those prompts. But I've also showed that like how I work with those prompting.
Love it. Good stuff, man. This is great. Yeah, we can get into the GPT now and talk about
Yeah,
how you take action on this data.
yeah. So this is one I already built for 2.5 years. We're now on June 12th. I'm launching really a platform on this because then this is all open source. This is all open AI. So obviously, when you put data here, I'm always very sensitive because yeah, it's open AI service, right? So now with my buddy, he's like the technical no code guy. He's building a platform so we can actually really let you upload the information so it's safe and secured and it's not stored and blah blah blah. But those databases what you saw is just linked towards a GPT. And maybe very quickly, I'm also actually curious in the chat. Are you already familiar with GPTs? Are you already using GPTs? That's a question. And for those who are maybe new into the word GPT, of course, you have OpenAI, which is a generic LLM where you can ask any kind of question, eventually building GPTs, custom GPTs. Yeah, you can actually build small own workflows. You can upload your old piece of information, and every time when you ask a question within the GPT, it will ask specifically on that data set or specifically on that workflow which you created. And that's the same thing with what we did already, like I think it's 2 years now. So we said, like, for instance, I will just guide you because that's the best thing that the workflow guides you because otherwise
Love it.
we come up with a very generic question. So in this case, and again, this is already live for 1.5, 2 years, I'm actually first asking who you are. So let's in this case do I'm an AE. I'm not going to watch the full post, but like later on, I have of course already dissected the entire prompting. But then me as an AE, where do I have my struggles? Or hey, I'm a CSM, and then maybe I want to have different stages. But like, hey, I want to improve in my demoing. Okay, demoing. Okay, what do you want? Because if I'm a leader, again, it typically, and this was a workflow I built 1.5, 2 years ago. So don't judge me. You can already make this way more advanced. The moment I know it's a leader or an AE, it asks different kind of questions. So you can all, set this up. But in this case, I just want to have operational advice because I want to improve my demo skill set. Um, Based on that now, it says actually already, like it gives me also already some examples. So let me say I want to indeed improve on multi-threading. Multi-threading.
And just for context, this is pulling from your database, right,
Yeah,
of
it will
content.
show in a bit. It will show in a bit like where it's
Awesome.
pulled. information from. This indeed, that's behind. But here's the important one, like what I did in the workflow. Please describe situation and challenge. And I really want you to be specific. The more specific you are, the better the output. So typically, and that's maybe also a tip myself, I don't have the patience to type anymore. So I really dictate. I only voice prompt towards AI. So now I would just maybe it works actually. Let me double check. I'm looking for the latest multi-threading tips relevant in 2025 to upper my game and to improve my win rates. Can you share any of the expert resources on improving my multi-threading skills? Again, this is very small prompt, right? But typically, if you are voice prompting, you can share way more information. And what you see here, and Simon, he's my buddy who created the entire N8N because we are building and indexing the entire database. You see here, it actually consumes from those databases.
Wow.
All those tips and tricks, and it always, and that's what we of course curated, it always, and I will show you later on, references towards the sources. And what I like overall, it will typically show 3 indeed, and then does a quick summary of other, because this is how we formatted the GPT. But here it comes. Like a lot of like LLMs in general, they stop the moment you kind of like have done your prompt. But we've tried at least to make this prompt series in a way that continuously tries to think along with you and trying to think towards your next step. So what do you want to do with it? Because you need to make it practical, right? So that's actually very nice. You can keep on with follow-up prompts. And again, this is just very basic, and then we go into the details on outbound tactics because that's like I think where the show is about for today. But in this way, you ask your question at the moment you have a question. So hey, I have an email sequence I want to send out. Put it here and ask like, hey, what are any of the expert resources on outbound emailing to CFOs or to CTOs or whatever? And it will show you the templates on the LinkedIn posts, which are shared before. So I think that gives us other ways to think or to upgrade our outbound prospecting.
Love it. So this is great, man. I love how clean you set up the GPT. I actually want to share the poll results here because we asked the audience how familiar they are with GPTs. This is actually kind of surprising. 75% of people are using GPTs. And let us know, are you creating your own or using somebody else's? I love how clean the outputs are on yours. And then 25% are new to them. Creating GPTs is actually really easy, and there's tons of great ones you can use. Again, we just shared Koen's playbook in the chat, so if you want to check that out, you can get access to all this information there. There was a question that I want to get to before we move on. So this question from Louis here, I'm going to read it out loud. So the actual input of all those articles into the database is manual, then the database itself and this custom GPT are automated. Is that correct? Or if you want to just kind of speak to that.
No, again, like, and I think there is a layer of automation which I maybe can add still for myself, but hey, this is the way I'm already working for 2.5 years, so I'm fine. But yes, so I'm adding with 3 clicks on desktop and mobile, I add the sources myself, and from there it is indeed AI will analyze in Notion. Then Notion, and I don't want to geek out here, but if you really want to show that workflow, it's just an agent that we can share because we also shared it on LinkedIn. The more people can learn from this, the better, right? So Notion databases are indexed by NG8. I mean, I think some of us know Make.com, N8N is also like these kind of no-code platforms, AI platforms. So it actually kind of fully indexes all this information, and then it actually shares back towards OpenAI. And it sounds very difficult. It is not, because these kind of things are easy to set up. And then eventually, and I'll show it you otherwise later on as well, if you create your own GPTs, you can quite quickly and easily, you can connect it towards these kind of like indexed databases. And there you have already like a very curated own LLM in which you can ask questions.
Love it. Cool. Before we get into the next thing that you wanted to share, I'm going to just rapid fire answer some of these questions. So one of them, will this call be recorded? Yes, all calls are recorded. You will get access to them after the show. How can I make a copy of the chat with all the links? So Robert, The last link we put in the chat has information regarding everything that Koen's sharing here, so you can grab that link, check out the information there. Yep, he's sharing all the templates. I'm just kind of answering the questions here. One question from Steve here. Is this on the Notion free or paid version? And what does that look like? I'm sure there's a level of paid here.
So the moment you want to use AI, I mean, come on, you know how expensive AI is? You need to eventually pay for it. So when you have the Notion AI, but like my databases is automatically AI analyzed. If you use my databases, it's not, I mean, I already pay for AI, so I analyze it. So, but like if you want to build your databases and you want to have AI running it over Notion, I pay, I think, $20 a month. If you want to build your GPTs on OpenAI or on Gemini or on Claude, yes, if you want to build your own GPTs, typically it's the paid version because otherwise, and these are just business models. Your free version will be always limited to some extent.
Yeah. Good stuff. Keep the questions coming, guys. These are good. We can move on to the next.
Yeah, I will go quietly clicker to 3D because I think everyone now understands like how it's set up. So
yeah.
I will also share this one eventually if needed, but I don't want to share too much. I mean, the means like that's not going to be overkill. But I have as well, when I want to talk towards my database, I have really, I want to have the most richest outcomes. I want to have diverse voices. I want to have, I mean, the most diverse perspectives because based on a very wide and depth view on the topic, outbound prospecting in 2025, I can ask the AI just to really come up with the key summaries. So I have a series of questions I'm asking and layering. I already showed it to you before, but like in this case, the example I will show you now on outbound prospecting in 2025, I continuously ask for additional resource out of my database because one prompt, it's fine. It will come with some insights, but I want to really make sure that it has all information. So how does that look? So I asked here like, hey, here's my GTM or revenue challenge. So I'm looking for the latest outbound prospecting tactic. As we know, the reply rates, blah, blah, blah. I just asked, please search through the database for the most relevant expert resource on this topic. Now, and there it comes. Same thing what you saw before, right? It's just the output, which is fine.
Yes, it's great.
Then I'm starting asking myself either like, hey, give me more, or what I also really suggest everyone to do, if it, for instance, create like a template or an email draft for yourself. Hey, thanks very much for this reply. Can we review it together? And can you really make sure that we didn't forget anything, ABC, the more specific you are? But like I continuously, every time when there's an output from AI, I let it review itself. Because then it's going to go over its first imaginative outcome what it's created, because that's the thing with what AI does. And it actually kind of reviews itself. So that's like a tip, always review the output you get. In this case, I asked a few times, I want to have diverse voices. So you see here, all of a sudden there are different people. Then I keep doing this. And you see here, here I said like, hey, now specifically focus, because of this show, on AI tools and automation. And then all of a sudden, actually, if you really want to learn about AI, Jordan Cradford, he's amazing. He shares a ton of really great stuff on AI. And you see here as well, like, of course, Jason as well. A lot of interesting insights when it comes to AI. And I keep doing it because I really want to have an overall view. And then I asked it indeed, hey, now I have all these resources, which is great. But my challenge is, what is the best to pick? Can you summarize this me into actionable strategies? And then it's just going to suggest indeed how I can, in this case, practically apply this for myself. And again, I will scroll a little bit further because you see I will keep continually asking questions. And then I'm here very specifically and said like, hey, I want you to summarize this in 7 or 10 actionable strategies. And there you see, quite dissectable, but he took nine different tactics. And again, this is all shared later on in a way more consumable format. So don't worry. Like, what are tactics which nowadays in 2025 are working? And these are very small summaries. So there's the last thing when I come in, I've created a template for a playbook for myself, which always consists of the same elements: actionable strategies, checklists, scorecards. Because in this way, I can eventually, myself as a leader, help my team Or if you are an SDR and AE, with a checklist, I can or print it or put it next towards my screen, and I can actually see like, hey, this is the one tactic I feel the most convenient about. This is the checklist, and I will use it next to me. And how does that look? Like that's what I only need to double check because of course I have quite some open. One, bear with me. Where is my now I need to double check where I well, I can
Oh
find
yeah,
it.
all
Yeah,
good.
I find it here. It's all good. But like so eventually, based on this prompting, I create what I call the need an action plan. So I have here this 9 strategies, and I say, hey, why does this matter? What is a step-by-step way of execution? What does good look like in this case on this tactic? But what are also common mistakes for me to avoid? I have this default template, and this is just dissected per tactic.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe it goes a little bit too far, but I just want to show you like what AI can do for yourself if you do the right prompting. And there you go. For all of those 9 strategies, I've created a small checklist so I
I
can
love
really
it.
help myself implementing it.
This is great, man. Again, grab Cohen's playbook if you didn't have the chance yet. It's there in the chat. I love this. I mean, I think my recommendation, I know everyone's going to get access to your
Sure.
database and your GPT, so everyone, feel free to use that. But if you have the time, work on building your own because again, the best version is going to be the information, the data, the post, the content that's actually relevant to you. But again, this is a great starting point for everybody, especially if you're a leader, manager, or you want to become one. Sharing this with your team will certainly, help in that process a lot. Is there anything else that we've missed, Kun, that you want to make sure we go
No,
over?
I mean this is like I think everyone start understands now the setup and just to also show that I don't make up anything. You see few in Notion, few in LinkedIn, so you will see here all those resources which I just talked about. LinkedIn post from 3 months, so
Yeah,
they're actual because I really asked for 2025 strategies, and of course it pulls all this information. And you see here just as an example of all those podcasts and all the. I mean, you see here Jordan. We just talked about it, but like it really always references back towards those key resources. And then
yeah,
eventually you can just build playbooks. And this is like very extensive. I've been iterating for this on 2.5 years, but you can already really do 10% of this just for
yeah.
yourself and maybe share this with your peer because then together you actually start building playbooks and document for your manager or for yourself. I think that's great. The last thing I wanted to show, and I actually just did it 5 minutes before the show. I said like I voice prompted. I said like, hey, I want to have. Is it this one? I want to have. Yeah. I really want to have the key prompts. Like, with what are the prompts people can use when it comes to outbound prospecting? And also there, eventually it showed me all the different resources. And if I scroll down, I think I did it here. I said like, hey, I just want to have all the different prompts outlined so people can use them yourself. So here you see a list later on, all outbound prompts, which you can just use in also OpenAI or on Gemini or what have you. But again, based on experts like that, like many others who have shared that freely on LinkedIn.
That's awesome, man. This is great. Yeah, I mean, again, we just shared your playbook there in the GPT that everybody can grab. Kun, this is honestly one of my favorite shows we've done in a while. One of the most tactical ones. That idea of a database, I don't think anyone shared something like that before. So I think it's awesome. And then the extensions you use, we shared those earlier. But it's the Notion plugin, and the other one was called Glasp. Am I correct? I think we put a link
Glass,
to it
yeah,
earlier.
I will just, I don't know what the website is, but this is the tool. Oh, no, it's the host. Wait, I will share it with everyone. One sec.
Yeah, good
Hold
stuff.
on. Glass.
And that's it. I mean, we've got one question I'm going to go over before we wrap up, Kuhn. This person, it's a long question, but to summarize it, what they're asking is, sometimes they want to, instead of like finding the content that comes to them, they want to look for specific content on LinkedIn. Do you have any recommendations for how to search LinkedIn for the content you're looking for to then
Yeah,
save that to your database? Does that make sense?
yeah, of course, because
Or
that's,
tools?
let me show, I think it's, I will share one more because that's also one of my geek projects
Yeah.
because I want to only get data from those I'm following. So what I did, I mean, if you go over LinkedIn, I know we have a few minutes, but like this is of course a feed which is yes, of course, a bit aligned on like who you're liking, where you're commenting, But what I like more is my curated list. So I've here like 28 sales content creators, CEO, woman content creators on because I also want to have diversity for myself. I find it important. Personal brand, marketing, CS, partnership, RevOps, you name it. So what I do, and again, I do this here. It's already like 6:30 or 6:41, like in Amsterdam. So I go over those posts,
Ah,
and I will only pick the ones like if I think, hey, this is not like, come on, there are two sentences, this is not relevant. I just scroll down. But if I follow Jacob and I think like, hey, there is something interesting, I do it. I consume it anyways, right? So I rather do it like more in my blog. I have every evening a block of 30, 45 minutes. I go over it and I see like, can I interact? Can I comment? Can I learn? And then indeed I put it into my database. And I have those feeds like you see here. So I always recommend just make clean feeds. How are you doing this? Um, I mean, if I really openly, I mean, just for everyone, and then just a tip, but if you go here and you go to search, you click on enter, and there it goes. I click on post. I start from members. I just type in my content creators, which I'm following. Jet. There he is, the one and only show. I always do latest, and I say outbound. Because there it comes. Like this, like the way I search. Like, hey, is there anything when it comes to outbound? It makes sense if you're talking with chat like that. Outbound is a frequent used term, but like, and I can find this really specifically. So that's also what I'm doing with those feed lists. Like, hey, if I want to build playbooks, I am searching specifically on those terminologies, and then I can add additional resources maybe I haven't had into our database. So that's like a possible way of adding right stuff on LinkedIn.
good stuff. Thanks again, man. Again, if you haven't already, grab his playbook in the chat as well. Follow Koen on LinkedIn. We shared it a little bit earlier. But thanks again, man. Again, this is one of my favorite shows in a while. This is really good stuff. I appreciate it. Everyone will get access to the recording. And we'll see you all tomorrow. Koen, thanks again, man.
Have a lovely day. Cheers. Bye bye.